indefensible is written in Common Dreams. Biden nominates Death Squad backer Elliott Abrams to diplomacy panel. Because why do you want to give the left voters another excuse to either vote for RFK, Marianne, or outside the party and vote for Dr. Wist?
I just can't. When I saw this, it was really like, I thought it was almost an Onion article again. I keep seeing this. I need to really expand what is in the realm of normal. But the idea that Joe Biden thinks that somehow appointing this psychopath to anything is going to curry any favor with anybody that he needs to curry favor with, he's delusional. The only people that like this are Republicans. And so those aren't even the people that he needs to reach. So this to me is like the biggest screw you. It's a level of tone deafness that I don't even think that I've seen this administration hit yet. This has to be the pinnacle of tone deaf. Right here.
Elliott Abrams, enemy of human rights, apologist for mass murder, should have no place within spitting distance of any Democratic administration in any capacity. So what exactly is the thought process of the President of the United States to support not just a hawk, but the worst kind of hawk? The type of person who, first of all, hides behind his Jewish background to espouse the worst kind of bigotry, especially that was levied directly at Ilhan Omar.
Oh, yeah.
And so while we can, get into the details of this article, and I'll get through it briefly, but we're going to play the clip of Elliott Abrams and Ilhan Omar's exchange on Capitol Hill from a few years ago. Interestingly enough, I can distinctly remember listening to this, I think when I was driving up from Florida to New Jersey. Because I remember at the time, this was a really, really big deal. And there were, again, everyone, if you remember, everyone threw Ilhan Omar under the bus in the Democratic establishment. So it is not something that makes any sense. Mehdi Hassan of MSNBC, a totally indefensible decision from Biden. But once again, this is a man, Elliott Abrams. He's not just anybody. He was a part of Iran Contra. He pleaded guilty. He was part of arming terrorists in the Middle East.
No, his resume truly this is outrageous. Like this, I honestly, other than if he brought Gina Haspel back maybe and got her back in the CIA, it might be as outrageous, but this is pretty bad.
Let's play it.
Ms. Omar.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for your testimonies. Mr. Adams, in 1991, you pleaded guilty to 2 counts of withholding information from Congress regarding your involvement in the Iran Contra affair, for which you were later pardoned by President George H.W. Bush. I fail to understand why members of this committee or the American people should find any testimony that you give today to be truthful.
If I can respond to that.
It wasn't a question. That was not a question. I reserve the right to my time.
It is not right.
That was not a question.
Committee can attack
on February 8th,
who is not permitted to reply.
That was not a question. Thank you for your participation. On February 8th, 1982, you testified before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee about U.S. policy in El Salvador. In that hearing, you dismissed as communist propaganda report about the massacre of El Mozote, in which more than 800 civilians, including children as young as 2 years old, were brutally murdered by U.S. trained troops. During that massacre, some of those troops bragged about raping a 12-year-old girl before they killed them. Girls before they killed them. You later said that the U.S. policy in El Salvador was a fabulous achievement. Yes or no, do you still think so?
From the day that President Duarte was elected in a free election to this day, El Salvador has been a democracy. That's a fabulous achievement.
Yes or no, do you think that massacre was a fabulous achievement that happened under our watch?
That is a ridiculous question, and I will
Yes
not
or
respond
no?
to it. No.
I
I'm
will
sorry,
take,
Mr.
I will
Chairman,
take
but
that as a yes.
I am not going to respond to that kind of personal attack, which is not a question.
Yes or no, would you support an armed faction within Venezuela that engages in war crimes, crimes against humanity or genocide, if you believe they were serving US interests, as you did in Guatemala, El Salvador, and Nicaragua?
I am not going to respond to that question. I'm sorry. I don't think this entire line of questioning is meant to be real questions, and so I will not reply.
Whether you, under your watch, a genocide will take place and you will look the other way because American interests were being upheld is a fair question, because the American people want to know that anytime we engage a country, that we think about what our actions could be and how we believe our values are being furthered. That is my question. Will you make sure that human rights are not violated and that we uphold international and human rights?
I suppose there is a question in there, and the answer is that the entire thrust of American policy in Venezuela is to support the Venezuelan people's effort to restore democracy to their country. That's our policy.
I don't think anybody disputes that. The question I had for you is that does the interest of the United States include protecting human rights and include protecting people against genocide?
That is always the position of the United States.
Thank you. I yield back my time.
Definitely a very provocative conversation, but one that you can see where the guilty tend to react in a very aggressive manner because they know that they're guilty and they know that he knows what he did. No question that he is, look.
And can we talk about when that took place? Because that's when he was being appointed by whom?
President Biden.
No, that was a while ago.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was President Trump.
That's my point. Thank you. That's the point.
What's the
So
point of
what we
electing?
have is, are
But
you
have
kidding
to
me?
vote for Joe so that we can elect the same people that Trump would elect.
Right. So in other words, now you're really swimming in the same pool. Because if this president is appointing someone like that fascist to this position, there is no point in even having a Democratic Party. Like, there's no point. I honestly do not understand the point. Can someone tell me the point?
In response to news of Biden administration's decision to nominate Abrams to the State Department's Advisory Commission on Public Diplomacy. I mean, it's amazing also in the Democratic Party, especially when we talk about the government overreach and all of these ridiculous jobs that they come up with that are, again, they're just these token Advisory Commission on Public Diplomacy.
But why are we appointing a war criminal to a panel regarding diplomacy?
Former longtime Human Rights Watch Executive Director Kenneth Roth wrote that Abrams' most notorious public diplomacy is downplaying the 1981 El Mazadi massacre of 1,000 people by U.S.-trained and equipped Salvadoran military units. Raymond Bonner, a former New York Times correspondent in El Salvador, wrote for The Atlantic in 2019 at the Reagan administration with Abrams as point man routinely defended the Salvadoran government in the face of evidence that its regular army and allied right-wing death squads were operating with impunity, killing peasants, students, union leaders, and anyone considered anti-government or pro-guerrilla.
Yeah, I mean, he's as neocon as you could possibly get. I mean, like, this is really absurd. I mean, maybe he should bring back Bolton, maybe get Rumsfeld and Wolfowitz back in there for shits and giggles. Like, this is really bizarre.
I don't think it's bizarre. I think that we really have to recognize that there is a major disconnect with the people who walk amongst the Beltway masses and seem to believe, really in their heart of hearts, that the country will be so afraid of Trump or DeSantis getting into the White House that they can just get away with whatever they want, that they can just do whatever they want. They can act with complete impunity regarding who they nominate, what policies they pass, don't pass, who they are going to support in any election. I mean, my God, I can't even think about how bad the down ballot races are going to be in 24.
It's horrible. It's horrible for people down ballot because this is like.
Well, think of it this way: if you're not somebody like Adam Schiff, you know what, or hopefully somebody like Barbara Lee or Katie Porter, in a state like California, you don't need Joe Biden to be out there campaigning for you to try to help you get elected. But if
first of all, there's nowhere that Joe Biden is going to help anyone get elected.
Well, that's my point. If you're a candidate who's running for, let's say, the U.S. Senate in Pennsylvania, or running in Georgia, or running in Arizona, or running in Wisconsin, a guy like Joe Biden is not helping you. And the more that these things come about, the more it's going to be completely detrimental to the down ballot races. So to ignore that reality would just be, out of sight, out of mind. But at this point, nothing surprises me with this administration.
Well, that to me is the Democrat MO. The Democrat MO is to have a really crappy strategy at the top and let that trickle down to the down ballots. That's their strategy. Shit at the top, trickle to the bottom. That's what they do.
And then everybody gets shitted on. No pun intended.
Well, that's the whole point. But when they make moves like this and bringing people like this into this administration, that is going to make it harder and harder for the vote blue, no matter who people. It really is. It's making their chant quieter and quieter because certain people like Elliott Abrams ought not ever be back involved in an administration, let alone a Democratic one.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.